Everyone's had the experience of nighttime dreams. In a nighttime dream, all sorts of things happen, all sorts of events occur, and they happen in space and time, and the moment we wake up in the morning, we know that none of it was real. So, of course, in the story of the waking dream, just as in a nighttime dream, cause and effect happen. Of course they do. It's absurd to say they don't. And when it's seen that the dream is a dream, then that simply collapses. Okay, so I don't know if this will make sense, but let's spend a few seconds on it. So in a nighttime dream, if anybody thinks about the last nighttime dream that they could remember, there was space and time in it, probably it took place, certainly it would have taken place over a certain amount of time. They probably moved around in it or existed somewhere, so there was space. And almost certainly in that nighttime dream there will have been cause and effect. Perhaps they went to a railway station and bought a ticket for a train ride, and they were given a ticket, and then they got onto a train and the train started moving through time and space. And perhaps because it's a dream, an elephant came in and sat down on the seat next to them and started talking to them, maybe. So there's time, space, cause and effect all happening in the nighttime dream. Now the moment that the dreamer wakes up from that dream in the morning, from the nighttime dream in the morning, it's known that none of those things had any reality. There was no time, there was no space, there was no ticket, there was no train, there certainly wasn't any talking elephant. The nighttime dream feels absolutely real while we're in it. The moment we wake up from it, it's known to be unreal. Now, of course, waking up from a nighttime dream is the death of the one who was in the nighttime dream. So what we're talking about here, we're not talking about waking up from this waking dream. Waking up from this waking dream is physical death. What we're talking about here is awakening to the dream. In other words, we're waking up to the fact that this is, in a way, a waking dream. It's real and it's unreal. It's both. And one metaphor that's used is that awakening or liberation, or whatever you want to call it, it's kind of the equivalent of, in a nighttime dreaming, what's called lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming at night, the dream goes on, but the dreamer becomes aware that it is a dream. So that's quite a good metaphor. The other thing I'd like to add in terms of what you said, of course, this does seem utterly, well, it doesn't seem, it is utterly convincing. A nighttime dream is also utterly convincing, but the difference, the main difference, I would suggest, between a nighttime dream and this waking dream is that this waking dream is a great deal more consistent. It has a lot more consistency than a nighttime dream. And one way of putting this, you could say, is that every night we go to sleep, and we go to sleep into a different dream, but every morning we wake up, and we wake up into the same dream every morning. And it's the consistency of this dream that makes it so utterly convincing. But also notice, because some people do use the word illusion about this, notice I'm not saying that this isn't real. At no point have I said this isn't real. I may be using the metaphor of a waking dream, but I haven't said that it's not real. It is real. Of course it's real. If the word real means anything, this is as real as it gets. This cup of tea is as real as it gets. But it's also unreal. It's not one or the other, it's both.
So that was Richard Sylvester explaining how this life or reality is actually a dream. And I've been getting so many comments from people in the Mandela Effect community about how this life seems more dreamlike than ever, that I've decided to make a video about yet another Mandela Effect Theory. Before I get into the bulk of why I think the Mandela Effect is occurring, because we're in a collective dream or shared dream. I want y'all to listen to this short clip of a lady basically saying what I've been hearing a lot of us in the community saying about our dreams seeming more real and this world seeming to be more like a dream.
I have a question about the dream state and the waking state. So I guess in my experience of contemplating different things and sort of deconstructing models and overlays and all of that, it seems though that the waking state almost becomes more dreamlike as the sort of objectness starts to fall away.
Yes.
And something that I've been noticing is that, like, it's a sort of a funny, sort of peculiar thing, and it's not totally peculiar, but I question sometimes, is this a dream? Sometimes my dreams are becoming, they seem to be sometimes more vivid than they used to be, and detailed. And then something might happen during the day, and then I'm thinking, was that, do you know what I'm saying? It's almost like
Yes.
the waking state is becoming more dreamlike, and the dream state is becoming more vivid. And
Yes. What is daytime or the waking state? From the conventional point of view, the waking state consists mainly of objects made out of matter. And objects are considered, from the conventional point of view in the waking state, to be the most real aspect of experience. When, in fact, the very word real or reality comes from the Latin word res, meaning a thing, betraying our belief that it is the extent to which something is a thing that it is real, and the extent to which something departs from being a thing, it becomes correspondingly less real. So when somebody says to you, "Oh, come on, get real," they mean, come out of your thoughts and feelings and come down to earth. You know, deal with things that are really real. Yeah, which means objects made of matter. They're considered to be more real than thoughts and feelings. And thoughts and feelings are in turn considered to be more real than consciousness, which, if it's considered at all, is considered to be the most effervescent, trivial, unimportant aspect of experience. That's the conventional point of view. However, if we explore our experience, consciousness is the most important element of experience. It is the only element of experience that we cannot do without. It is the most substantial element of experience because it's the only element of experience that never disappears and that can't be destroyed. So from this point of view, from the point of view of consciousness, the waking state is, as Rumi said, a kind of ignorance. That's what he meant, knowledge of the world is a kind of ignorance. He doesn't mean that experience, he's not rejecting experience, but he's rejecting experience as it is conceived by the waking state mind, as a multiplicity and diversity of objects made out of dead inert stuff called matter. That kind of a world is ignorance, or is an illusion. But experience itself, made of consciousness, is absolutely real. So in that sense, yes, what we once considered to be real, objects made of matter, become less and less and less real. And correspondingly, what we once considered to be completely unreal, to the extent that we didn't even think about it at all, consciousness, is now realized to be the sole reality of experience. So consciousness and matter change place. We should say, so even phrases like, it doesn't really matter. Matter here means what's important. So the conjunction of what's important with the word matter, again, betrays our belief that things or reality is made out of matter. We should say, it doesn't really consciousness.
Right.
Or instead of saying, what's the matter? You know, when your child is crying, you should say, what's the consciousness?
Right. So it doesn't see. It seems that it's not so clearly defined anymore.
Say that again.
It seems as though it's not so clearly defined anymore. The dream state and the waking state.
Yes.
I mean, experience is
Yes.
experience.
Yes, the distinction, I mean, how do we know now that we're not in a kind of dream state?
Exactly. I
Actually,
asked myself that question.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We do not know.
Yeah. So they,
Because as you're implying, when we're dreaming, the dream, from the point of view of the dream, has exactly the same
Absolutely.
quality of reality as does the waking state
Yeah.
from the point of view of the waking state. And
Absolutely.
it's true that both the waking state and the dream state are equally real. But the reality of the waking state is not made out of matter, and the reality of the dream state is not made out of mind. The reality of both states are made out of consciousness. It is consciousness that gives the dream and the waking states their reality. They are real. This experience is absolutely real. What would an unreal experience be? Has anyone here ever had an experience that was unreal? It's not possible. All experience is absolutely real. Even the wildest hallucination is as real as this concrete experience. But the reality of both those experiences, the wild hallucination and this ordinary experience, is the same consciousness. It is consciousness that gives experience its reality.
have you ever sometimes though questioned, like, sort of what's the dream state and the waking state? Sometimes there can be some confusion maybe between the two. Or like you maybe question. I notice lately sometimes it's like, was that dreamt? It seems so real, and then you're questioning it. Maybe it's because
there's a difference. Although their ultimate reality is the same, there is a difference in the dream state and the waking state, in that the dream state is only experienced by one mind. Whereas this reality that we're experiencing now is shared by many minds.
Okay.
So although the reality of those two experiences is identical, they're not
I
the
understand.
same exactly the same experience.
Okay. Yeah. I got you there.
In other words, this that we're having now is a shared dream.
Yes. I understand.
Our dreams at night are not shared, they are private.
Right. Okay.
But they are both equally dreams in consciousness, made only of consciousness.
The guy answering that lady's questions is Rupert Spira. I think that's how you pronounce it, Spira. Just in case you're interested in doing any research on him. His videos are pretty interesting, I will say that. And I'll put a link to some of his videos below in the description. But yeah, believe it or not, science may actually back up the idea that reality is a dream produced by our brain waves and ultimately our consciousness. Now, I know I already covered this in a previous video, but I think it's worth mentioning again. When we dream, our brain waves literally switch from alpha brain waves to theta brain waves, and we enter a totally new reality, or what some would call a dream world. Specific bands of brain waves are directly associated with our awareness as well as our memory. It's our brain waves or our brainwave state that allows us to see the Mandela Effect changes. If our brain waves change, our perception, our reality changes. Again, when we dream, our brain waves literally switch from alpha brain waves to theta brain waves, and we enter a totally new reality. And there is no separating the observed from the observer, whether we're awake or asleep. The altering of brain waves automatically transports us, if that's the right word, it transports us to another reality. And they say, when you're dreaming, if you want to become lucid in that dream, you should look at a clock or look at written text and see if the text looks off. Well, what's happening now? A lot of people in the community are seeing weird things going on with clocks. We're seeing 1111 and other double digits. The letters of countless logos are starting to morph and look off. People, we have no idea what a dream really is or how it even works. We think just because we slap a label on it and call it a dream that we got it all figured out. But really, we don't truly know everything about dreams. And I hate to even call it a dream, because by calling it that, it makes our minds just dismiss it. A more accurate name for it would be an alteration in one's brain waves that results in one finding themselves in a new world, timeline, and or reality. And dreams can occur on both an individual and a group level, by the way, since there have been cases where a group of people have or will have the exact same dream at the exact same time, and in essence even interact with each other within that dream. If you don't believe me, you can just Google it. I mean, after all, dreams don't take up any space. It's empty space. And science has said time and time again that our physical world is made up of 99.9999% empty space. Am I saying that all dreams are as real as this reality? No, not necessarily. I'm saying that we need to acknowledge that we don't really know everything about what exactly dreams really are. Reality is perception. Perception is reality. It's impossible to separate the observed from the observer. It's impossible to separate the observer from the observed. I'll say it again. This has already been proven with the research of Dr. Robert Lanza and many other studies. So if we are actually within a collective or shared dream right now, then wouldn't it be safe to say that metaphors and symbolism plays a much bigger role in this thing than we were taught growing up? I mean, think about it. Do our own individual dreams not have things within them that can be interpreted on a symbolic level? Maybe the elites know this, so that's why they're so big on placing their negative symbols everywhere within the mainstream media, maybe as a way to condition us to think on a subconscious level that all symbolism is evil, when they know good and well not all symbolism is evil. I think the whole idea behind symbolism is that the meaning behind it only holds as much power as you choose to give it. I was having a conversation with my friend about this the other day. He showed me a bunch of pics of half-naked celebrities photographed in a tub and told me that they take these kind of pics of them in the tub because it's like a symbol of vulnerability and evil that Hollywood is trying to put out there. Don't get me wrong, I'm well aware that Hollywood is evil, but I told him that for them, the elites, a pic of someone in the tub almost naked may represent vulnerability and something evil to them, but personally for me, the tub represents being cleaned or purified by water. Water could be a metaphor for baptism. So do y'all see just how subjective symbolism can be? I think symbolism can be kind of like a sort of reflection of one's inner self. But I bring up symbolism because if this place is more of a dream than not, then we have to start looking at different things within this collective dream as metaphors and symbols of something which has much deeper symbolic meaning. For example, we're all starting to experience so many synchronicities that are just unexplainable. Most of the time, the synchronicities are tailored to the individual, and the significance of its meaning is something that only that specific individual would pick up on. You know what I mean? Also, I don't know if this is related to synchronicities, but I've been noticing so many songs mentioning dreams and dreaming in their lyrics. At first, I thought it was just me, but my friends noticing the same thing. And I believe that within a dream, there is no such thing as coincidence. Each aspect of a dream functions as a symbol or a metaphor that serves to explain the bigger picture. I know this sounds a little bit out there, but sometimes I think music may actually be some kind of means of communication from a higher realm that knows more about the true nature of reality than we do, maybe. Could it be that someone is attempting to, I don't know, whisper in our ears through a song to try to wake us up to the truth of reality being more like a dream than we thought? I don't know. My gut is telling me that there is something more to the sound wave frequencies created by music than we've been told. Maybe that's why preachers talk about choirs of angels singing. But yeah, don't take my word for it on all the different references to dreams that I keep hearing in songs. I want you guys to take an hour or so and just, turn on your radio or put Pandora on, and I'm willing to bet you songs will come up that mention dreams and dreaming. I wish I could play all the songs that I've been hearing that reference dreaming, but of course, I'd get a copyright strike, so I'm just putting the songs in the background. But anyways, at this point, you may be saying, well, I know I'm not in a dream because my senses tell me that I'm able to experience my external world that is outside myself. Therefore, that's proof that I don't live within a dream. Well, to that I say, watch this.
Well, you mentioned flowers. Okay, so when we see a flower, and let's say go up to the flower, smell it, touch it, rather than seeing the flower then as an external entity that we're encountering, would it be in accordance with this understanding to see the experience of sight, smell, touch as modulations of consciousness rather than something external that we're coming in contact with?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, that's right. Take the experience of seeing, touching, and smelling the flower.
Right.
Take seeing to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Are we sure that there is a flower outside the experience of seeing?
Yeah.
We say we are seeing the flower, but in fact, the flower is an inference.
Right.
All we can know for sure is, I am experiencing seeing, or there is seeing.
Yeah.
The object seen is never found. In other words, it's not seeing the flower, it is just seeing.
Yeah.
And when we go up and smell the flower, we think, I am smelling the flower. But it is in fact just the experience of smelling.
Right.
It's not the smelling. We never find the of the flower. And the same with tasting and touching. So when we say we see see, hear, touch, taste, and smell the world, and our only knowledge of the world is the five sense perceptions.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever actually found a world that exists in its own right, independent of the experience of seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling.
Right.
So we can't even say there is seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling of the world.
Mm-hmm.
We can only legitimately say there is seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling.
Yeah.
It's not of anything.
Yeah. And it's our mind, not consciousness, but our mind, that our relative mind, so to speak, that conceptualizes
Yes.
those five or those sensory experiences into a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. However, the intuition that there is one thing out there called a flower that we are seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling is not completely ignorant. It's based on the intuition that although seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling are five different experiences, what is truly being experienced is one.
Mm-hmm.
That is a correct intuition.
Which is awareness.
Exactly. Thought, in response to this intuition, thought posits the single object that is seen, heard, touched, tasted, and smelled. It's just the interpretation that thought gives the experience is incorrect. It is true that seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling do have a single common source. It is awareness.
Yeah.
But because the object-knowing mind can't see that awareness, it projects the single object into the world and says the object exists out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
So it's very interesting, Ken, because this intuition that each of us has, that there is a single object, a single something that is seen, heard, touched, tasted, and smelled, and that we all share this intuition. And materialists use this as apparent evidence for an outside world. It's called the intersubjective agreement, the agreement between different subjects. And they believe that the world is evidence. The fact that we all experience the same world is evidence that there is a world outside consciousness.
Yeah.
In fact, it's the opposite. The world, the shared world, is evidence of shared consciousness.
Yeah.
It is because each of our minds is precipitated from the same field of infinite awareness that the world appears to be the same to each of us.
Yeah.
So the intersubjective agreement, in fact, indicates the shared reality of consciousness, not the shared reality of the outside world.
And to just finish the quotation, when Shakespeare said, "Beauty brags, but 'tis not she," he meant that seeing the world as things out there,
Yes.
and in any case, seeing some superficial beauty is not really it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The way he uses the word beauty in this context is, beauty brags, but 'tis not she. It is the shiny surface of the object that seems to attract our attention away from consciousness towards the outside object. The object in this sense is bragging. It is saying, come to me. It is saying to the attention, leave your home in awareness and come to me, the object. Beauty brags, but it is not really she. It is not really her that is attractive. It's not the shiny surface of the object. It is the presence of awareness which is shining in our perceptions that is truly attractive.
So, if life is actually a dream, and we are all people or characters within a dream, then you have to ask yourself, who is the one dreamer? Who is dreaming this dream? Who's the one dreaming all of this up? And Nate Atherton, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name, he got me thinking about this the other day when he was talking about the Word of God. To answer this question of who the dreamer is, I'm going to read a comment I left on one of Nate's videos where he was talking about what the Word of God is. The essence behind what words are is actually thought. The essence behind the Word of God is God's thoughts. To imagine the thoughts of God is pretty amazing. There must be so much power behind God's thoughts that it would result in the creation of worlds or many individual consciousness. What if God is the dreamer and we were created by his thoughts, i.e. the Word? Through us and all of creation, which are his thoughts, which many call his Word, he is able to experience every imaginable aspect of himself. Just think about it. When we dream, there may appear to be many characters within the dream, but they are really only part of the one dreamer. Maybe it's like that with God. As above, so below.